This video is inspired by the video uploaded on the official Japanese One Piece card game YouTube channel. They were showing some examples of how to set up lethal. I wanted to expand upon it because I never really did the math myself to see what's the most efficient way to end a game. I'll take a look at a bunch of scenarios and hopefully we'll come out of it with some useful insights. This video does not take into account triggers, which have a heavy degree of randomness, and focuses more on what your opponent intentionally has in hand. You don't need to pay attention to the specific cards I'm using in my examples. They're just placeholders so that I have something visual to work with. So for all intents and purposes, our leader is any generic leader, and our character is any generic character at whatever power level we need for lethal. If you liked this video and found it helpful, I would appreciate a subscribe. I'm almost at 1,000. It's like a dream come true. I really hope I didn't mess up any of the math or the logic in this video because I've actually spent the last 3 days working on it. And I really don't want to have to remake it, but I'm sure someone in the comments will find something and tell me anyway.
Kar-D Kaizoku.
Alright, without further ado, in order of complexity, here's the first scenario. Your opponent has 1 life, no cards in hand, and no Dawn. You have 1 character on field. The best way to attack for lethal in this scenario is to attack with your character for 5k first, and then with your leader for 7k, requiring a total power of 12k. For every card in hand, just add 2k to each of the attacks. In the next scenario, your opponent has 1 life, 1 card in hand, and 1 active Dawn, and you have 1 character out. The path to lethal in this scenario is to attack first with your character for 7k, and then with your leader for 9k, requiring a total of 16k in power. This is assuming that if they have an event counter in hand, it's a 2k event counter. But for guard point, just add 1k to every attack, and for radical beam, add 2k to every attack. The next scenario is when your opponent has 1 life, 1 card in hand, and 2 active Dawn, and you have 1 character out. This one's also pretty simple. 2 Dawn open and 1 card in hand usually means a 4k event counter. As long as you attack with your character first, this is the damage needed for lethal. 9k damage from your character and 11k damage from your leader, adding up to a total of 20k power. In this next scenario, your opponent has 1 life, 1 card in hand, and 2 active Dawn, and you have 2 characters out. This is just something to note if you're in this situation but with 2 characters instead. Don't be tricked into needing to attack with both characters. The 4k event counters like Red Hawk, Punk Gibson, Hell's Judgment, and Overheat can actually ruin your lethal. Your first hit with a character has to land, or you won't have lethal. But other than that, it's the same math as the previous scenario. Now let's see the scenario when your opponent has 2 life, no cards in hand, and 0 active Dawn, and you have 2 characters out. In this case, your first character would have to attack for 5k, your second character would have to attack for 7k, and then your leader would have to attack for 9k, adding up to a total of 21k power. For every card in hand, you would have to add 2k to each of these attacks. And just like before, if they have 1 active Dawn, it's the same calculation as you would do for a 2k counter. But for guard point, you would add 1k to every attack, and for radical beam, you would add 2k to every attack. For this next section, we'll take a look at what happens if we bump up their hand size to 2, but also bump up our character count to 3. There's actually a lot of permutations, so I'm just going to show you a spreadsheet instead because I don't want to make a bajillion graphics. We'll be categorizing the attack strings based off the power of the first attack, then the second attack, and so on. We decide which attack string is best based off the worst possible value for a category, meaning your opponent is defending optimally. The blue highlight denotes that a counter has stopped an attack. The orange highlight denotes an attack string that doesn't require your leader to attack. This is important to note because some of the worst values for a category changes depending on whether you need your leader to attack or not, which is a reason why this video has been a major headache to create. Let's look at the scenario where they have 2 life, 2 cards in hand, and 0 active Dawn, and you have 3 characters out. So the best way to attack is with the 7k attack string. If that first hit connects, then if you have enough Dawn to make a 9k and a 13k attacker after that, that is your best lethal option for a total of 29k total damage. If you don't have enough Dawn for that, and you need to rely on your leader to deal the final blow, then it's better to do the 7k first attack, and then 7k second attack that gets countered by a 4k, and then a 7k third attack, and then a 9k final attack with your leader line, or the 7k first attack, 7k second attack, 11k third attack that gets countered by your opponent for 8k, and then a 5k final attack from your leader that both require a total of 30k damage. The biggest misplay your opponent can do is to counter this first 7k hit with the 4k, as you will be able to swing for lethal via the attack strings on row number 8, number 10, or number 11. Now let's look at the scenario where they have 2 life, 2 cards in hand, and 1 Dawn open for a guard point, and you have 3 characters out. The math gets even more complicated with guard point. The graphics probably really hard to see, so I'll just jump right into the best string of attacks. The 8k string is actually the best if you have enough Dawn to make a 10k and a 14k attacker afterwards, requiring a total of 32k power. If you require your leader to do the final hit, you can follow either the 8k first hit, 8k second hit that gets countered by 4k, 8k third hit, and then the 10k hit from your leader line, or the 8k first hit, 9k second hit, 12k third hit that gets countered by a guard point and 6k, and then a final 5k from your leader line for a total power of 34k. For the 5k and 7k attack strings, you're already set on the worst path for both by having the first attack countered, so that's why the 8k string is the way to go. In the same scenario, but they have a radical beam instead, it's even more complicated, but also kinda more simple at the same time. The 7k string is the best regardless of if you need your leader to attack or not. 34k is the total power needed if your opponent counters optimally by defending the first hit. If your opponent doesn't counter the first 7k hit, you'll get access to a favorable category of strings. Following up with the 9k attack leads to the best string of attacks. You can either go for the string where your second attack for 9k gets blocked by Radical Beam and a 2k, and then your third attack is for 7k, and then your final attack with your leader is for 9k, leading to a total of 32,000 power. Or if the second 9k attack goes through, then you'll just need 15k on your third character for lethal, leading to a total power of 31k. I know there's stuff like double attack and banish that mucks up the math, but I'm going to stop here for now because I'm just about ready to pull my hair out. For these basic scenarios at least, if your opponent has any more resources than this, you're probably unlikely to have lethal, so I just give up on trying to end at that point. This video has just been an information dump, and it's way different than any other video I've made before, but I hope it helps you optimize your gameplay. If any of my math was wrong, please let me know so I can delete this video and never make anything like it ever again. Okay, bye.
Car D Kaizoku.